Hey, what's up, you guys? Another episode of the Team Building Podcast, where we interview top team leaders, broker owners, thought leaders in the industry. And we have a very special guest today in Melissa Lombard. She is the team leader of the Keller Williams Preferred Real Estate office in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And she has a lot of value to bring today. Super excited to have you here with us today, Melissa.
Awesome, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here and excited to have a great conversation.
Awesome. Well, one of the top people in the industry that I think of as a thought leader who's really helped inspire me to become the best version of myself, his name is Rock Thomas. And he always says, never apologize for being awesome. And I would love for us to kick this call off today for the first 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Feel free to share with the listeners if they're just getting ready to listen to this one and they're not sure they want to stick around, they want to jump over to someone else's podcast. Why should they stay on with us over the next 20 to 25 minutes? Where have you come from? Where are you now? Where are you going? And what's the value going to be of listening to this episode?
Wow, Jeff. I love the question. So, I started my own real estate career in Austin, Texas, and 2 years ago got the opportunity to be a team leader of a market center in Minneapolis. And so I transitioned from doing business to helping other agents be successful in their business. And I got to tell you, through a pandemic, we are crushing it. Our office is absolutely crushing records. Year over year, we're up about 60% in various metrics. And I couldn't be more proud of our team and of the agents here. And what I'd love to share with people is just some of the ways that we're doing that, some of the strategies that the agents are using to build their businesses and build their teams, and the role that I believe a brokerage has in facilitating that and helping agents to just crush their own goals.
Perfect. Well, we'll dig into that for sure. 60%, you guys, did you hear that? That's a phenomenal number, especially we're in the middle of the pandemic right now. As we record this, we're the fourth quarter of 2020. Really quick, for those that aren't in Keller Williams land, I agree with everyone that they drink the red Kool-Aid. I started drinking it this year. We launched a market center, a franchise in Omaha, Nebraska, KW Elite. But of course, our podcast is agnostic to any particular brokerage brand. However, I will speak to Keller Williams for a moment to help the audience know a little bit more about that team leader role. What I find interesting about it is Gary Keller's mindset was that the brokerage should ultimately run like a team because teams are more profitable, teams are more efficient, and teams are focused on serving the agent. Unfortunately, unlike the traditional brokerage model. So when Melissa says she's the team leader of a market center or a brokerage, she's acting just like most of you who are team leaders of individual teams. There's not a lot of differences, right, Melissa?
That's absolutely right. Yep. I'm the leader of the biggest team. It's 160 agents and a leadership team of 12 people. And yeah, it's very, very similar. The coaching conversations are very similar and the structure is quite similar.
Perfect. Well, let's start with this. So when I first joined Berkshire Hathaway in 2015, we took our team that was number one in Nebraska, Omaha's Elite Real Estate Group. We left an indie brokerage at MP Dodge Real Estate, the oldest real estate company in the world, in North America, I should say. It's like 160 years old now. And we joined Berkshire. Berkshire had a great name, of course, Omaha. We were in Buffett land, and we were there for 5 years, and we grew from 70 to over 700 unit sales, literally in 6 years. Fastest growing real estate team in history, left Berkshire to join KW this year, and kind of the rest is history. But the thing I found very fascinating, and I'm really excited to hear your answer to this question, is that when I first joined Berkshire, we were in a mastermind group, and someone came up to me one day. I had a team of about 20 or 25 people, and they knew I was number one in the city. They knew I was doing 600-700 deals a year, and they said, I would never want to be you. And I've heard that a lot more times now since. They said, Jeff, I'd never want to be you. And so I sat back. I'm like, well, you don't want to make what I make, and you don't want the lifestyle I have, and you don't want to impact and influence the lives of other people. Like, what do you mean by that? And they meant they wouldn't want to have to manage 20 or 30 agents. Oh. And I quickly said, because that's when someone says something like that, you need to say, well, what do you mean? What part of me do you not want to have? The baldness? Yeah. Right? The aging, like what part is it? And they said, I just can't imagine managing 25 agents. And the thing that was so fascinating at the time, Melissa, was that I already had a success manager that managed the agents. And I said, oh, I don't do that. And then they'd say, well, I wouldn't want to have to do the back office. I don't do that. I wouldn't want to have to do the bookkeeping. I don't do that. I've leveraged all those different roles. So when you say you have a team / brokerage of 160 agents with whom you're responsible, I wouldn't want to do that, Melissa. So share with us, because there's a lot of people that have like this limiting belief that they can't have a team of 20 or 50 or 1,000 people. How are you able to create impact and influence for 160 agents? And obviously keep in mind, they're probably going to listen to this podcast today. So what are some of the areas where you can create value for them inside of your world?
Yeah, well, they'll definitely be listening, Jeff. So, it's very similar to what you're talking about. It's in Keller Williams, we use the word leverage frequently, and that's what it's all about. So no one person is going to be amazing at everything. And so part of my job is coaching and consulting the agents to figure out what it is that they're really, really great at. I like to kind of think about it as like Marie Kondoing your business, right? Like, you go through your closet and you ask if it sparks joy and you get rid of it as her concept. Well, I feel like the same concept is true in someone's real estate business. When I'm consulting with an agent and it's just been them and they're selling houses like crazy and it's time for them to get to that next level because they keep bumping up against that ceiling, It's time for them to bring on an admin. And, that's where their business can absolutely, take off is by bringing on somebody. And the first assignment that I give them is start carrying around a notebook and jot down every time you're doing something you don't want to do, write it on the list, because you're building a job description for the next person. And then honestly, that's the most important hire that you're ever going to make, because that person now becomes your partner in bringing on the rest of the team. And so if you hire the right person from the get-go, you're going to, you're just going to be able to experience the joy of leverage even in the hiring process. So that's really the power is in building that team around you and understanding what your strengths are and maximizing those, creating, a world where someone does the things that you're not great at.
Right. No, I absolutely love this idea. And it's funny, as we live our lives outside of work, you think about all the things in your life. Get that notebook out this coming weekend and ask yourselves, what do I wish I didn't have to do? I come home, the kids haven't put anything away. I have to do the dishes. I've got to get ready to go to my mother-in-law's and cook whatever it is you have to cook. So there's all these things and we always complain about it, but what are we doing to change ourselves so that we can change our situation? I like to talk to people about how we trade time for money, and no matter who you are, you trade time for money. And so, even if you drive to go have your car washed, you have chosen to place yourself inside your vehicle till your car gets washed. You could have somebody run and do that for you. And so it's interesting, as I have continued to increase my income and my net worth and my influence, and I start to be around other people that have higher incomes and higher net worths and higher influence, it's all about time. It really comes down to, how do I save more time? How can I be more efficient? And so I think a really great practice, and I'd like to kind of segue into your coaching and consulting, especially around goal setting, because a lot of people listening right now, we're getting ready to go into 2021. Something I learned my first year selling, I sold about 50 doors and made about 96,000 net back in 2007 was my first full year. And it was really interesting. If you've heard this before, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it again. So if somebody makes $100,000 a year and you work 52 weeks a year and you work 40-hour weeks, which none of us work 40-hour weeks, but let's say you did work a 40-hour week, you should work towards that. You'd be making $50 an hour. So if you're doing paperwork where you could hire someone at $25 an hour and replace the time you would have otherwise spent on that paperwork to do a number of other activities that are higher income producing, and you took the risk of hiring the admin to cover the paperwork, you could obviously make more money than you made the year before. And when people say they get stuck and that they're stagnant, I think it's because they don't subscribe to that mindset that there are activities that they're doing that are lower income producing, because they don't take a step back to look at what their time is worth to them and then replace the lower income producing activities with somebody else to your leveraged role. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, leverage takes different forms, right? Like sometimes leverage is building a team. Sometimes it's looking at your personal life and figuring out, do you need an assistant, or do you just need a task rabbit, or, just DoorDash, or, just pay somebody to do something for you. But leverage can also be, you talked about building your net worth and building your financial roadmap. Leverage can also be what is your money doing for you? And that's one of the conversations that we have a lot at Keller Williams is, how are you putting your money to work for you? And that's one of the things that we do talk about in coaching conversations is this isn't just about, how do you sell more houses? This is about how do you create the most amazing life? And everybody looks different. And so that coaching conversation looks different for everybody. But but yeah, I mean, leverage takes a lot of forms and it's personalized.
Nope, I love that. And, you know, on the front of the book that I know both of us have read, and I'd recommend anyone read this book, even if you're not at Keller Williams. I read it in 2006, and that is The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And inside of the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, on the cover, it says it's not about the money, it's about being the best that you can be. And I've challenged Gary Keller to change the quote to becoming the best you can be. And you'll never become that thing. You're always striving to become better. And so as people are thinking about their 2021 and what you want to have change, you have to change something in your business or you'll get the exact same results. Don't blame a lack of success on COVID-19 or the market or the president or the presidential campaign. Like, everybody looks for excuses to not be successful. I've been able to grow my business every year despite markets, despite COVID, despite all of the other things that are distractions. You just have to be willing to work and change and move and pivot and constantly listen to podcasts and read books and meet with like-minded individuals to help you become better. So let's get into a few of the hacks that you would recommend as we talk about leverage and goal setting for next year. The agents you've watched double their sales in 12 months. What are some of the strategies that they've implemented in their business? And most importantly, as the people that are listening today, you know, a lot of us are trying to stop selling real estate and focus on building real estate businesses. So I would like to talk about this a little bit from the perspective of the leadership. What are the changes that the leadership has made? You know, what have you done as a team lead to help these agents double their sales?
Yeah. Well, here's the first thing is showing up. And I don't mean that flippantly. Like, that has literally been the difference. I mean, part of my role as team leader is to have conversations with people outside of our brokerage. So I'm talking to top agents across brands. And there's several offices that have been closed, and the impact that had on the agents' businesses is significant. And so, you know, to the extent that it's safe to do so, and I understand that we're talking to a wide-ranging audience, you know, all across the country. And but that's been a huge piece for us, is showing up and encouraging the agents, giving them tools and equipping them with new ideas of, like, hey, you know, why don't you do some virtual open houses? Like, why don't you get really, really great at that so that you can still deliver high value to your clients? You know, and so making whatever necessary pivots need to happen so that you can still conduct business in a safe way has been a game changer for our agents. And truly, that's probably 75% or more of the success that the agents have had this year, is simply showing up, making care calls to their database. We talk about it a lot, but it's
Did you just
it doesn't always
suggest
happen.
calling your database? Did you just suggest that?
And
that
I have a magic script. I have a magic script.
All right, you guys, team leaders, listen to what your agents need to be saying on their call. Will you role play with me?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do this thing. Hello.
Okay. Hey, Jeff, it's Melissa. How are you?
Melissa, I haven't heard from you for a while. I think I still am getting your emails all the time, though. Appreciate you sending those.
Awesome, Jeff. Well, I'm so glad. And, you know, this has been a crazy year. And Jeff, I'm just calling to check in on you. How are you and the family doing?
You know, I appreciate you checking. We're really good. Yeah, little Timmy's baseball was really fun this year. Weird having them all have masks on the entire time. But other than that, I think we're surviving.
Awesome. Literally, that's it. The conversation can go a bunch of different ways from there, but you only have to call and ask them how they're doing.
Just showing up, like you said.
So, genuine care call.
When we started having children, this is back in 2005. My daughter just turned 15, and we're 15, 13, and 11. I had read a study that parents that buy parenting books naturally are better parents than the parents that don't. But it had nothing to do with reading the book and everything to do with the parents that simply bought the book, because the types of people that were willing to buy the book were going to dedicate themselves more than the person that's not. So if you haven't bought MREA yet, talk about an easy sell, right? If you haven't signed up for a coach, don't worry about getting the coaching, just the fact that you signed up. And it is the point, though, because if you're showing up, you cared enough to show up, to be active and participate in some way. And yes, sometimes you go to trainings. Sometimes Melissa and Jeff Cohn aren't perfect when we deliver a training or have a one-on-one. We make mistakes, but the very act of being at the office and interacting and being consistent with those types of things are going to make you successful. And I couldn't agree more. We've gamified agents' participation for 10 years, and they'd get a point for team meetings. They'd get a point for accountability meetings. They'd get a point for coming on call day or call nights. And the agents who racked up the most points were always the agents that performed at the highest level. They are absolutely a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, a couple of other things, that I want to point out, because goal setting season, like you said, is upon us. One thing that we do that I think is a huge game changer is that we don't start goal setting by saying, okay, what did I do last year? Okay, and I'm going to base that I'm going to make my goals for next year based on that. We actually take a step back when we're doing goal setting and say, where do you want to be? And when new agents come to us from other companies, they've never done this necessarily because they haven't been a part of the KW fabric, but we start with kind of that 5-year vision. Like, where are you going? And we talk about their personal goals, and then obviously some business goals as well. But something happens. I read this, that around age 11, we stop living out of our imagination and we begin living out of our history. And so we goal set not based on what could be, but we goal set based on what has been. And so breaking that pattern and going back to this, okay, ideal perfect world, we're sitting together 5 years from today. What does your life look like? And we're going to nail that down to a few categories. And from there, now we can talk shop. Like, now we can get into the nitty gritty, because now you actually care.
Geez, I couldn't agree more.
And, I know a lot of us here are reading the 12-week year, the 12-week year. And I love that. The author talks about, having a big vision. And so that's intimidating for a lot of people. A lot of people come into my office and say, I know I'm supposed to have a big why and I don't know what it is. That's the value of an awesome coach. An awesome coach is going to help you drill down, figure out what it is, so that on those days when execution is not the thing that you necessarily want to do, but it's the thing you have to do, you can tap into that reserve and say, but this is why, and I'm showing up and I'm doing the work, and that's the difference maker. It's execution.
I totally agree. I think about that all the time, and we talk about it a lot, that it's not the ones and zeros in your bank account that brings happiness. It's truly succeeding at the things that you believe are important. And if you never take the moment to step back and ask yourself, what's important to me? How will you know that you ever succeeded? And in that, there lies a lot of wisdom. So I would recommend backing up and listening to that again, because so often we're not happy. And we say, well, I'll be happy once I have a BMW. I'll be happy once we have our third child. I'll be happy once our kids are off to college. I'll be happy. We have these little things that we say, we'll be happy once we do X, Y, Z. My greatest happiness has come from the fulfillment I get by helping other people achieve their dreams. And that is very cliche. And if I listen to myself right now, I've just got my license, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm trying to cover my mortgage payment here, right? But the money is just ones and zeros. So like, you make your first $100,000, eventually maybe you'll hit 250 or $500,000 or millions. It just depends on what you want. But don't make the number arbitrary to just a random number you pull out of the sky. Make sure that number is going to back up helping you achieve your dreams. And it could be charitable contribution, time with family, time with your dog, whatever it might be, but have a reason behind it. And I loved it what you said. There's hard days where you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this text message or this call. I don't want to go to the training. I don't want to have to do my job today, but you feel like you have to do it. Have a reason why you're showing up, not just the money, because the money isn't going to be a driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's great to have the big vision. And then also the value of a coaching consulting relationship is having somebody partner with you to figure out, okay, how do I take that big number? For a lot of agents, it's an income number, or maybe it's a closed units or closed volume, but whatever that big number is that's attached to your big why, now it's time to chunk that thing down. Let's figure out, what do I have to do in order to hit that, right? And so in our world, it's a GPS, goals, priorities, and strategies, and then chunking that down into a monthly plan. And because I think a lot of times we're great at setting the goals and terrible at turning it into a plan that every day I can look at my one-page plan and say, what do I have to do today in order to be achieving my goals? And it sounds so simple. And I know listeners are probably like, yeah, duh, I've heard that a million times.
Yeah, duh.
Man, that's the value of a coach, because you're going to bring that piece of paper into that coaching conversation every week. And if you've got a coach who's worth anything, they're going to hold you accountable to the dreams that you have. right?
Love it.
And so I think it's paramount that you not only have a goal, but then you've got somebody to help you stay accountable to it.
100%. For those team leaders listening, it's your responsibility to help your agents do this. It's not their responsibility. They don't know better, sadly. That's why the traditional agent only sells 7 deals a year. They don't know better. So you need to go to them this month and you need to start a plan for what their life goals are the next 12 months to 5 years, and then reverse engineer that based on the income they'd need to generate, and then give them very tangible, specific KPIs, key performance indicators, so they know what they have to do every day, every week, every month, every year to hit the income goal that year so that they can live and lead the life. So the numbers we've tracked for 10 years and what we teach at Elite Real Estate Systems starts with call attempts. We know it takes 150 dials per week to average $100,000 a year in income based on 10 years of data points, 5,000 unit sales, and $1 billion in sales. And we've tracked all of this in Excel and CSU from 2011 on. So we know for an agent that wants to make 100 grand a year, they need to make about 100 dials a week, 400 dials a month. And out of 100 dials, 20% will answer the phone. So they need 20 people to answer the phone, and you need to get 10 to answer the phone to get one person to agree to an appointment. So our numbers were 2 people answer out of 20 calls. And out of the 2 appointments that you end up going on, you'll convert around 1 transaction. And our average commission in our market's about $6 grand. The brokerage takes their cut. It ends up breaking down to about 36 sides will end up paying them $100,000 income. Well, knowing that, and if you don't know these numbers, you've got to break them down in your own marketplace based on your commission splits and your average sales price. Because if someone asks you, hey, what's your why? And they tell you, and you say, well, what's your income to make the why? And they tell you, then the question should be, well, what do you have to do this week? And then you get the blank stare. Well, there should be no blank stare. Take the total divided by 52. Or if you only want to work half the year or 12 weeks out of the year, then do the math and figure out what needs to take place. So to me, those are some really big, important factors, is how is the agent supposed to spend their time? And most importantly for you, Melissa, and for me as leaders, how do we inspire and impact and influence those that follow us so that they're doing those boring daily routines of making phone calls, going on appointments, all these things that seem arbitrary? Those are the lifeblood of a successful business. You have to be doing those simple activities like calling your database, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Success isn't sexy. I mean, success day to day is pretty simple, and it's pretty basic. It's really boring.
The one thing.
Mastery is boring. And it's the way to create an incredible life and to achieve anything that your wildest dreams can dream up. But it's going to be a little bit boring. And, Jeff, I love what you talk about with, motivate, like your job as the leader of a team. And I coach a lot of folks who are building teams. And I remind them that they kind of get caught up in like, well, what should the splits be? And I say, you figure out what your value is. And I assure you, when you pick the right people, they don't care about splits. You ask them, how much do you want to make? Because then you never have to talk about your goals. You only talk about their goals, because as their goals are in line with your goals, you guys are golden. You find out how much they want to make, and then you lead them. This world has a serious shortage of leadership, and that's what everybody craves. They crave a plan and a leader to help them get there. And that is your chief job as a team leader, is not to manage the day-to-day. It's to hold people accountable to the goals that they have, which are ultimately the goals of the team.
And the traditional brokerage has failed the agent in that entire process. The traditional brokerage has created a sandbox where anybody can play, and there's nobody there providing the toys.
Yeah.
It's a blank sandbox. Good luck. Bring your own toy.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah, have fun.
And I'll take that a step further and say that the traditional brokerage sometimes even says to people, because I meet with folks from these companies, and they're like, oh, I've heard that like my broker tells me like teams just don't work.
Oh my gosh.
And what I say to that is, the reason why that's their answer is because they don't know how to support you in building a team. They can't financially support you in building a team because they need to take too much from you because they got big bills to pay. And they don't know how themselves to build a team.
Well, I look at a lot of coaching organizations. So we own Elite Real Estate Systems. That's who owns this podcast. And we've coached hundreds, if not thousands of teams. We've had thousands of people come through our workshops here in Omaha. And it shocks me how many people will come through and say, man, I was getting coached by so-and-so and it just didn't work out. And I always will follow up and say, how many teams did so-and-so own? Or tell me the numbers based on so-and-so's team back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Oh, well, I don't think they ever had a team. Okay, so you're good. If you want to have a peach tree, you've got to have a peach. You know, it had to start as a peach to be a peach tree. You can't get an apple and become an apple tree. So you want to be a rock star real estate agent, go get coached by a rock star real estate agent. So with that, I'm going to do a shameless plug. We would like to invite anyone listening to come out to our workshop in January. It's going to be the first workshop of 2021. It's an all-day investment workshop. And I love that you had brought up investing earlier. And an all-day team building workshop. It's a Monday and a Tuesday. You can find out more information on our website, eliterealestatesystems.com. Just click on events, and anyone that ever is on our podcast gets a ticket for free. So Melissa, we'd love to have you out to any time in 2021 for one of our events. We host a workshop almost every other month. And then in May of 2021, we're going to be focused on interviewing 10 of the top team leaders in the country and talking about their superpowers. So grab your ticket to the Team Building Summit. That's the teambuildingsummit.com, or again, you can just click into the events link. Also, be sure to give a 5-star rating on iTunes. Give Melissa a shout out when you leave that 5-star rating. We're trying to get up to 1,000 reviews before the end of this year. We just hit 100 reviews. I've been working on that for 4 years. So we really need you to go out there and put a 5-star review on here for us and just give Melissa a shout out. And also, while we still have our audience, Melissa, what is the best way for someone to refer to you? If somebody in your own market is listening to this, how do they get a hold of you? How can they get coached by you? What are the next steps?
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear from them. Email is probably an awesome way to reach out to me, and that's Melissa Lombard at kw.com. And would love to hear from anybody, regardless of brokerage. Happy to help.
And I'll spell it for her. It's MELISSALOMBARD at kw.com for those that didn't want to have to guess. And let's leave this with maybe one of your most funny moments in the business. Maybe it's something that happened on a showing or something that happened in one of your coaching appointments. Maybe it was most embarrassing moment for you, something you did. You think about it for a minute, and I'll just keep speaking. I just wanted to thank our audience. I don't usually do it very candidly, and I've been trying to get better at showing gratitude. For those that listen, and I know we have like this group of about 3,000 or 4,000 of you that are just super dedicated and committed to this content. Thank you. I appreciate the audience that we have. I appreciate that you find value in this. I'm not here for the money. I'm here to create impact and influence and pay it forward. I listen to podcasts religiously when I was launching my team. You know, I have to give credit to Toby Salgado, Josh Smith, Pat Hyben. There's probably a handful of others I'm missing, but these guys really paved the way for me to bring my team to the level that it's at. And so we do this to pay it forward. Melissa doesn't get paid to be here with me today. She's doing it to pay it forward. Obviously, there's ways to monetize through coaching and all these other things. I would be doing this even if there wasn't. I was doing this when there was no monetization because I think it's fun. And I think that our listeners know that. I think they can tell, Melissa, you're passionate about what you do. I'm certainly passionate about what I do. And I want to invite any local agent in Omaha, Nebraska to come check out our brokerage. The stuff we talk about at a national level is designed for you, literally and specifically. It's for agents in my own community to take advantage of the capping model, 2,000 leads a month, the best technology in the country. We're doing things that brokerages here can't speak to. We're literally pioneering tech-powered conference rooms, 6 degrees of freedom, virtual reality, all sorts of crazy. And we have agents all around us that don't come in to find out what's available to them. And it's a better deal, but the crab effect has taken effect. And if you don't know what that is, gang, go out and Google crab effect. You're unfortunately stuck in the bucket. So if you'd like to check out one of our meetings, every Tuesday at 10 a.m., we have our brokerage meeting. 11 a.m., I personally do an office tour every Tuesday, 11 a.m., and or go out to career.kwelite.com to learn more about opportunities in Omaha. I've never done a recruiting pitch before on a podcast, but I've been told we have lots of local agents and brokers listening to these. We're not going anywhere. KW Elite has already added 100 agents in the last 6 months, and we believe we'll be the #1 brokerage in Omaha in a very short amount of time. So jump on now, you guys. Take advantage of profit share, get on board. And then nationally, of course, we have a lot of Keller people in our world. We're going to be expanding into every Keller office in the country that will take us. So we're still looking at doing a lot of expansion partnerships. And of course, we'd love to be in Minneapolis with you guys, Melissa.
We'd love to have you, Jeff. We'd love to have you. And we're grateful that that you joined forces with KW. And you know, I would just say that, you know, you're a great example of the power of the opportunity. And so regardless of what brokerage you're at, you know, I would just encourage you to sit down with your broker and say, hey, what are the opportunities for me? What opportunities do I have for ownership? What ancillary businesses do you have that I could be an investor in? is there a title opportunity? Is there a mortgage opportunity? Is there a property management opportunity? All of these things, I mean, these are conversations that I hope your broker is already having with you, but if they're not, I would encourage you to have that conversation.
Oh,
and,
man.
probably the thing that I'm most excited about with KW right now is the Indy model, and talking to independent brokerages who maybe look at the big brands and say, man, I can't compete with their technology. I can't compete with all that they're offering. Now, unlike any time before, is a great time to reach out to a KW office and find out if they're open to a conversation about what it would look like to partner, because some of these partnership opportunities, I mean, we've done a handful of them,
we just
and we've
did
got
one too.
more in the works. Man, I mean, it truly is a game changer and a life changer for some of these independent brokerages. And what I will say, anybody in the Minneapolis area, I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're listening. And mega agents, if you have a big team and you're under a brand that doesn't allow you to own your own office, I'd love to have a conversation with you, because that's probably the most exciting, newest thing is being able to afford that opportunity to a mega agent who's got a big team, who wants to keep some of those profits for themselves. So
we have a big Berkshire office. The number one Berkshire office in the country is across the street from us, and there's probably 15 or 20 teams there that do more than $20 million a year in volume, giving away their commission splits to Berkshire Hathaway, just like I did for 5 years. My last year at Berkshire, they got $180,000 in commissions from me. At the office across the street, my office, you cap at $50,000. So you just keep shoveling the money over to Warren Buffett and work for a corporation like Berkshire Hathaway, which has a lot of respect, but they have respect because of the profits they've generated to their shareholders. So you as an agent, you don't own their shares unless you own A or B stock. You are paying into the shares owned by everybody else in Omaha, and that's why everybody loves you. So I would highly recommend to look into this Indy model that Melissa's referring to. You can stay Indy. You can keep the Smith family name powered by the KW office in your area. And we already have done that in Columbus. There's an Indy office there who partnered with us, and they're doing an amazing job, but they are getting that same double team cap, even though they have 30, 40 agents, 1,000 agents, it doesn't matter. They're still getting to take advantage of that. So sorry that this was so KW focused. It will not continue this way. Everyone listening, I'm sorry. All you EXP agents rolling your eyes, I'm so sorry. But hey, this is my podcast, so we get to talk about what we want to talk about.
That's right. And Jeff, you and I both know that one of the beautiful things about the United States is that there's options for people, right? And the same is true for brokerage. I think there's a brokerage for every person and every personality type. It's just KW is the brokerage of choice for those people who really care and are passionate about not necessarily opening doors every Saturday for the rest of their life, and they want a bigger vision for their life beyond just selling homes. And that's the thing that I'm most passionate about. You asked me what my superpower is. My superpower is helping people understand what their superpower is, so that we can create an amazing, incredible life and an amazing, incredible business. And I think the saddest thing that happens is that an agent works their whole career, and at the end of it, they have nothing to show for. They don't have a business to sell. They don't have, they just close up their shop, and that's the last commission check they ever make.
Pause right there on that sentiment. And now you agents out there, ask yourselves, has your brokerage provided you with an exit strategy? Is your broker training you on an exit strategy, coaching you to it? Have they authored a book on it? Do they host a podcast on it? Have they helped you set your goals next year based on it? And my answer for 10 years was no. Why? Because either A, they don't know how, or B, they believe in a scarcity mindset of not creating opportunity because they're scared it's going to hurt them, not help them. And I think that's kind of where it comes down. And of course, there's a great place for every person. I always tell people we're not a good fit for everybody. That's okay. We want people that work hard, that want to stop selling real estate for the most part and focus on building real estate businesses. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's giving people their lives back. But if you want to be a rock star at 80 years old on a stage playing in a band, then go for it. That wasn't my lifestyle that I wanted to have at 80 years old or at 40 years old.
There you go. Awesome.
Are we done? Are we off our soapbox? Geez, this was a good one today. I appreciate it, Melissa. You were an awesome guest. Thank you. And we hope to see you at one of our upcoming events. All you audience members out there that have stuck it out to this point, please give a shout out to Melissa. Just give us a 5-star review on iTunes and give her a shout out in your comment section. And until next time, thank you again, Melissa. Appreciate it.